Welcome, scholars. This is Mr. Sarles. I will be working with you on experimental design for the next few days. Look in today's Schoology folder and you will notice there's a note sheet that goes along with today's presentation. Feel free to print that off and fill it in, or use it as a guide when you're taking your own notes today. Some terminology to begin with. Population represents all of the individuals of the group of interest that you are studying. A sample is part of that population, so a subset of the population. A sample is used to gather information to make predictions about the entire population. For that reason, we have two different names for the numbers that we get from these groups. If a number comes from a sample, we call it a statistic. If a number comes from the entire population, we call it a parameter. In studies, it is often too expensive or too logistically challenging to find the parameter. So what we will do is we will actually find a statistic and use that to make a prediction about the parameter. Let's apply this to a real-life situation. A poll was done to determine how much time the students at Eden Prairie High School spend getting ready for school each morning. One question asked, do you spend more or less than 20 minutes styling your hair for each morning? Of the 263 students surveyed, 61 said they spend more than 20 minutes styling their hair before school. So now what I want you to do is pause the video, see if you can actually fill in all four of these parts for the above problem. Okay, let's see how you did. The 263 students that were surveyed, that will be the sample. They came from a larger population. The population would be all Eden Prairie High School students. All right, the stat is a number that came from the sample. In this case, it ends up being a percent. 23.2% of those people sampled spent more than 20 minutes styling their hair each morning. The parameter will actually be the percent of all Eden Prairie High School students that spent more than 20 minutes styling their hair. Notice that is not known. Now we're going to talk about types of studies. Experiment, observational study, census, sample survey, or anecdotal evidence. Okay, please pause the video, read the following paragraph. When you're done with that, hit play. Okay, in this example, a treatment is imposed. In this case, they're giving the subjects either aspirin or a placebo pill. Since a treatment is imposed, it makes it an experiment. Do the same with this. Pause, read the paragraph, and come back. All right. In the above example, information was gathered, but no treatment was imposed. So that makes this an observational study. Same. Pause, read, come back. Again, no treatment is imposed, but the researchers are not gathering the information. They're asking the subjects to provide information. So this, again, is an observational study, but it's a special kind. It's called a sample survey. So a sample survey is actually a special type of an observational study. Okay, another example. In this one, to determine how many fish were in Lake George, they drained the entire lake and counted all of the fish, unethical as it may be. If you ever do this and gather information from the entire population, it is known as a census. Okay, we're going to let Dr. Fauci do this last one for us.
And to Dr. Fauci, if I could. Dr. Fauci, as was explained yesterday, there has been some promise with hydroxychloroquine, this potential therapy for people who are infected with coronavirus. Is there any evidence to suggest that, as with malaria, it might be used as a prophylaxis against COVID-19?
No, the answer is no. And the evidence that you're talking about, John, is anecdotal evidence. So as the commissioner of FDA and the president mentioned yesterday, we're trying to strike a balance between making something with a potential of an effect to the American people available at the same time that we do it under the auspices of a protocol that would give us information to determine if it's truly safe and truly effective. But the information that you're referring to specifically is anecdotal. It was not done in a controlled clinical trial, so you really can't make any definitive statement about it.
So, as Dr. Fauci was explaining, anecdotal means casual or informal collection of data that is personal testimony or beliefs and not scientific in its methodology. All right, new topic, sampling techniques. The first being convenience sampling. This method of sampling is where you pick the people that are easiest to get access to. When I'm doing this in my classroom, oftentimes it ends up being the students I'm looking at in the classroom, because they're the ones I have the easiest access to. Second sampling method, voluntary response. You have the choice to participate or not. Someone calls you up on the phone, hey, are you willing to take a survey? You can answer yes or no. Another version of this would be you're on the computer and they ask you in the bottom page, hey, would you like to take a survey about this or that? You can choose to participate or not. Third method, systematic sampling, often used with production of items. You want to make sure your cell phones are working well. You don't have time to check all of them, so you check, say, every 50th phone to make sure it's working well. Next, cluster. Cluster is where you divide the population into sections and then you randomly select some of those clusters or sections. And then you choose all of the individuals within that selected cluster. Let's do an example for this one, a little more complicated. Say I want to find out the favorite movie of seniors at Eden Prairie High School. I don't have enough time to ask all of them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick 4 connection groups that have seniors. And then I'm going to survey all the seniors of those groups. So for example here, I found all of these advisors or connections advisors only have seniors. What I did is I randomly picked 4 of them. I'm going to survey all of the people within those 4 connection groups. That's called cluster. Stratified sampling. Again, you divide the population into sections, but this time instead of taking all members from some of the sections, you randomly select some individuals from each one of the sections. Okay, let's look at the movie example with seniors again and see what it looks like. This time, I have all of the connection groups that have seniors. Instead of picking 4 of the connection groups, though, I'm going to pick a couple kids from every single one. So stratification, break into groups, pick a couple from each one of your strata. Kids typically struggle with the difference between cluster and stratification, so look at the following example and see if you can determine which one is which. All right, first example. We took 3 of the math classes and asked everybody within those classes, so we asked the entire cluster. Second example, we broke into freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. We did not ask all of some of those groups. We took 20 males and 20 females from each, so that is stratification. The last sampling method is called simple random sample. An example of a simple random sample would be putting every single name of Eden Prairie High School students in a hat and drawing out 50 names from that hat. Those 50 people selected would be considered to be a simple random sample of all of the students at Eden Prairie High School. All right, take a little practice here. Look at the examples below, pause the video, see if you can figure out which sampling method was used for each one of the scenarios below. When you're done, play again. I'm going to go out of order on this one. Every 100th item, systematic. Random numbers generated by a computer are used to select, SRS. First one, they broke into groups and then took 3 items from each group, stratified. An auto parts supply obtains a sample of all items from 12 stores. So they broke into different groups and they picked 12 of them and did all items. Cluster. Okay, this last one, they broke into 4 age brackets and then took 10 men and 10 women from each age bracket. Again, stratified. All right, last topic for today, bias. I really enjoy doing this one in class. I throw this question at my kids. Who is the best FST instructor at Eden Prairie High School? All right, Emma, who do you think's the best teacher? Mr. Sarles. Okay, excellent. Valentina, how about you? Mr. Sarles. Excellent. All right, Amber, how about you? Mr. Sarles. Good. Eli, how about you? Mr. Bausch? Eli, remember, I determine your final grade at the end of the class. Okay, that's what I thought, Eli. So, Mr. Sarles, well done. Continue on in this manner. I get an estimate that 95% of the kids think Mr. Sarles is the best FST instructor at Eden Prairie High School. Well, is that 95% actually accurate? Probably not. The true population voting for Mr. Sarles is probably less than 95%. The method I used was biased, causing an overestimate of the population parameter. So, what is bias? Systematically favoring a certain outcome. So, underestimating or overestimating the true population parameter. Take a look at this picture here. Pause the video for a second. Why do you think this picture shows bias? Well, if you notice, the gentleman is asking the gal, hey, what is your favorite sport? And they're sitting right outside of the entrance to Target Field, which happens to be a baseball stadium. See if this next situation has any bias. If so, predict what direction the bias will be. So read, pause, and then play. Arthur used the words forcing us to dress. I think that would encourage a negative response from those people that he surveyed. Because of that, I would expect the sample to overestimate the population percent against the dress code. Also notice it didn't include some of the students, those people involved in after-school activities, where they oftentimes wear uniforms. Again, I would expect the sample to overestimate the population percent against the dress code. All right, thank you guys. Thanks for all the effort you're putting into this distant learning adventure. Overall, students in my class are doing very well. Thank you guys for the dedication, and we'll talk with you again tomorrow.